Salutations, my friends, and thank you for tuning in to another edition of the free stream. I haven't really done one of these in a while, and I kind of wanted to test out a few things, and I wanted to try a few new things, and basically do something different. But I wanted to deliver this information to you guys in somewhat of an orderly fashion. If you guys haven't really paid attention, or if you're unaware, recently that Pulse Club in Florida was attacked by a man named Omar Mateen. And we're going to be getting into a few other things as far as that, the Pulse Orlando Club, Ramadan, how his connections to the CIA, DHS, and all kinds of other things that are going on. So with that said, let's jump right into it. So if you guys are, well, not if you guys are, whenever you guys are looking at this video, I have two different sets of rotational slides going, all that kind of look at what's going on in the world, and these are things that I've only picked up in the past week or so. I'm not trying to go too far back, but I'm just trying to show you guys that we are living in the times of America's pulse being changed, of America going into a cardiac arrest, where we're seeing the globalism, the international New World Order behavior that is unfolding in Europe, where people are having to give over their rights for these migrants. You see, we're seeing that now unfold here in America. As I said, America's pulse. We're going into cardiac arrest because of all the different attacks that are happening to our body, to our system, to our country. And this is what I'm talking about whenever I'm saying we have been infiltrated. For some god-awful reason, Obama just does not want to admit that we have been. So this leads people to think that we're still safe when we can clearly tell that the borders are open, ISIS is here, and there are just way too many things going on simultaneously. Okay? So check this out. I'm going to play for you guys a video where Steven Seagal is talking about how he thinks, and yeah, this is Steven Seagal, Hollywood actor, where he's thinking or talking about how some of these attacks that are happening are actually engineered. So here, let's check this out.
I think your own country, the United States, has a very complicated relationship with guns because on one hand, it's almost perceived as a symbol of freedom protected by the Second Amendment, but on the other hand, it also created specifically American form of violence, mass shootings in schools and universities. So I wonder, where do you stand on the issue of gun control in the United States?
Well, first of all, I believe in the Second Amendment and the Constitution more than anything in the world. And I think that Adolf Hitler, for example, when he wanted to annihilate the people of Germany, the first thing he did was take away their guns. And the rights to bear arms wasn't just to protect the people from foreign invaders, it was to protect them against evil governments and anyone that would violate their inherent rights as a human being. So I believe in the Second Amendment, and I believe that, I hate to say this, a lot of these mass murders and all this funny stuff that's going on, I believe a lot of this is engineered.
I would definitely have to agree with him in this incident because I've talked about this before in other episodes and videos and other things that I've done. And there's actually been an article that comes up where the FBI is manufacturing a lot of the terrorism cases or the mass shooting cases that we've been seeing. This is why a lot of different special operations have been taking place as exercises and drills, is because they're coordinating. You guys think that just because these mass shootings are happening that someone's not figuring out a way to properly respond? You got to look at it whenever it goes hand in hand. Okay, so check this out. Muslims started Ramadan on 6/6 of 2016, this year, right? And prior to doing this video, or at the time of doing this video, I'm pretty sure you guys saw the article of where a Muslim man had stabbed someone as their sacrifice to Ramadan. And I could go off for days on how many different attacks are happening, stabbings, bombings, shootings, etc., etc. I mean, just the other day, I was looking at an article about the attack in Kenya back in 2015, where there was 147 different children, Christian children, that were killed. 1/3 of a school murdered. So what is this? What is it that we're really doing, that we're talking about right here? As I said before, when I led in with this video, we're seeing what happens whenever we're embracing the one world religion and the one world government. We're seeing what happens whenever we have to trade our nationalism for internationalism, the multicultural agenda. It's the clash of civilizations, the clash of cultures, however you guys want to look at it. That's what's happening right now. So before I get into some of the things that are going on regarding this, because I want to get into it real quick, just know that on May 26th, earlier this year, special operations soldiers jumped from helicopters and rappelled from roofs in an attempt to rescue the mayor. And this is happening in Florida, Tampa, Florida. Pretty much the same area where this whole Pulse thing took place. Could this be UX16? Could this be other incidences? Like I said, is this them providing a problem and a solution and then just waiting for the reaction, you see? So one of the things that the media is not really talking about, or that took a while for the media to discuss, is how there was multiple shooters. 50 people that were killed, one person blocked the exit, and how it was an utter bloodbath. And I'll actually talk about, and this is where it gets kind of strange for me, and I'll actually talk about it later in this. Patience Carter, one of the survivors of the actual attack, and how she came out talking about how she was so hurt and so distraught about the whole situation. But later we find out that she works for Fox, or had worked for Fox. So let's actually get into one of the survivors that you can see at the hospital. So let's see what he has to say about his experience.
So there he walks in, he shoots my friend in the back, and he unfortunately passed away right there on the spot. He laughs about it, which is very impacting to me. And then he just rains fire all over the stall, like all over the stall. That's where I got my first 2 bullet wounds. If you guys can see, right here. And then he stopped shooting, and we start screaming and being like, please don't do this. We haven't seen your face, please. And I guess that enticed him more, and he grabbed his gun, and over the top of the stall, he just starts shooting. And at that moment, I got my other 2 wounds, which are on the opposite side.
So now we have more evidence that something actually did happen, whether or not it was a false flag, or if it was a staged event, or what's actually going on. But outside of Patience Carter and a few other people that have come out being witness to the event, we're having all kinds of different confirmations as far as the official story. So basically what I'm trying to say is, do not trust the official story. What I'm going to go through here in this particular video is some of the facts and some of the things that have been discovered since the actual accident. Okay, so Omar Martin, the Arab translation or the etymological meaning of his name, and you guys can go look this up for yourself and understand it, is flourishing powerful, and that's the Arabic translation, right? So we have a man that goes, or one of the suspects, that goes into a club and starts killing people, whose name means flourishing powerful, meaning, and what I'm trying to get at, is the fact that Islam is starting to flourish. The heartbeat of our country is taking a hit because of this. So his father was a CIA asset. He met with multiple members of Congress, was tied to all kinds of different operations, knew different things that were going on in the backgrounds of these other operations, of these other campaigns. Right, so he's obviously connected. Okay, and his wife, and I'm sure I'll pronounce this wrong, but Nur Zahi Zaman knew about his homosexual tendencies, his trips to polls, either out of reconnaissance or out of closet self loathing, and about his planned attack on the club. He passed multiple background checks employed by G4S, which is a contracting company for Homeland Security, and one of the other companies that's actually been linked to a lot of these recent mass shootings. He took part in a stealth program conducted by the Department of Homeland Security and the ATF to smuggle in Islamic illegals from Mexico to quote unquote undisclosed locations since 2011. He was able to acquire multiple firearms, visited Saudi Arabia multiple times, frequented many gay sites and many dating apps like Grindr and Tinder. So they had eyes on this guy. Clearly, I mean, if his father's a CIA asset and he's able to do all these other things, clearly the intelligence community, the security community, however you would like to look at it, they knew about this individual. Okay? They knew that he was going to do these types of things, or that he had these kinds of targets, these affiliations, or hey, he could have just been somebody that was involved and eventually got radicalized. Right? So one of the things I think that we should talk about as well that's important regarding this is, how did he get one of the weapons? How did he purchase or come into contact with one of the weapons? If he was able to pass these background checks, clearly he was able to verify that he was a legitimate Muslim American citizen. That's where ex-New York Police Department Eddie Henson comes into play, where he said on December 3rd, 2015, quote, "I would annihilate every bleeping one of the Muslims in this country. So tired of this bull and the sympathizers with their political correctness. If they're going to attack again, or better said, when they attack again, I can just hope it's a meeting of liberals." This is coming from the man that sold him his AR-15 that he used in the shooting. So one of my thoughts is, how does somebody with this kind of connections, that's running these types of operations, these programs, and doing all these different types of things, how does he just freak out and go through one of these attacks, one of these breakdowns, these psychotic breaks, whatever you want to call them? Okay, so during the shooting, Omar went into the woman's bathroom where the victims were hiding and told Patience Carter, you see what I'm saying? This is how we talk about her for a second. The ex-Fox News anchor turned actor who was a member at the club, that he, quote, did not have a problem with black people, and that he thought that they, quote, have suffered enough. So think about this. Patience went on to, quote unquote, write a poem the day after, before she told her story to the news. So you don't think that she should be at home or with loved ones, or, reconciling what just happened to her. She should not be trying to write a poem and then get onto the news. You see? Patience Carter was a Fox News anchor turned crisis actor. So when she gets onto the news and she starts carrying on saying, oh, I just had never felt so threatened. I had never felt so alone. We really have to look at what's going on here. How the media is trying to spin the story. Because that's all that's really happening. And one of the things too, and this is where we got to look at how the media is spinning the story. Because I'll get into the after effects afterwards, the ramifications of the things that they've done, and what this really means. But this is how they're gonna play it out. Because of these oxymoronic thoughts. Homosexuality and Islam cannot exist, although they conduct sexual bonding ceremonies like the Greeks did, that strengthen their quote-unquote brotherhood, you see. So they have the same kinds of societal implications of Greeks to a degree, to where there is no homosexuality, or how even the Indians believe that there's 4 or 6 different genders. They're using different terminologies, and this is what I'm talking about whenever the cultures do not assimilate. You see, that's why I'm saying oxymoronic thoughts. Okay, they mass their wives and they beat them as well. They sell their children like slaves, but find brotherhood with one another in rape, stealing, and killing. And I'm not saying that's a homosexual trait, but look at the ideology of these people. Look at how they treat women, and look at how they handle their brethren. Okay, inherently parts of Islam have homosexual tendencies, or at least they conduct sodomizing acts. The dichotomy or psychology of Omar Martin was that he was actualizing his self-hate. While he wanted to engage in the lifestyle of the American homosexual, his devotion to Islam prevented him from following these urges. I believe that's the cover story, though. That's way too deep. That's way too deep. It took the media 2 days to report on the other shooters that were verified through independent media. And why was this hidden from mainstream media? They didn't want to report on the loose shooters. They didn't want to get people upset, worked up, or hysterical. And that's what I'm talking about whenever they spin it. You see how they're making it way too complex, like, oh well, Omar Martin had to go into that gay club and kill 50 people because he hated himself for being gay. We're not going to talk about the other shooters that were there. We're not going to talk about how other people are being killed. You see, we're going to talk into the psychology of it. Feel sorry for him. These politically correct people, these liberals, they're so misunderstood. We need to understand them. You see. So that's when we have to start thinking about what these false flags are. It seems like it's a staged event where crisis actors are used in real attacks, or to confirm or even validate or to manipulate the story afterwards. And this is what Patience Carter is. So while we have people that were there, people that actually did get killed, or people that are killed, we also have people that were there playing roles. If anything, helping the assault go down. So that whenever the news reporters afterwards, their friends at Fox News, when they can come by afterwards and say, hey, what happened? Oh my God, I heard, I heard all kinds of crazy things happen here. Patience. What happened? Well, these people came in, and surprisingly, the guy that did the main killing and the guy that you guys caught, he talked to me. Like we really have to look at how these guys are playing this destabilization card and this huge psyop, right? And I didn't want to focus too much on it because we understand what these false flags are. Okay, this is all kindle. This is all material used to stoke the fire for the Arms Trade Treaty, the multicultural agenda, and John Kerry's borderless world. Okay, and I told you guys because I wanted to get through that first. I wanted to get through the information of Omar Martin. Hey, I could be wrong. You guys could, maybe even correct me on a few things as well. But I wanted to get through that to look at the peripheral ramifications, the peripheral results of these acts of chaos and destabilization. I mean, we already understood that ISIS was going to come out for the attacks and say, hey, this is us. Okay, well, we already understand false flags are just trumped up attacks, this, that, and the third. But what we're not looking at whenever we play into trying to decrypt this whole situation, like I said, is the peripheral events and the things that happen because of that. Obama coming out with a new no-fly, no-buy gun law. So Facebook's new security check where they send you messages saying your friend has been marked safe from this event before you even knew. New York City deploying 500 officers, TSA agents, to the streets, to the trains, and more people at the airport. Governor Rick Scott of Florida requesting that we need an emergency declaration on what's going on with this ISIS situation, on how we've been infiltrated. Him requesting that statement from Obama and still not being called back, still being turned down. And ISIS praising Mateen as a lion of the caliphate and telling them how they should go and target theaters, hospitals, and amusement parks next. Like, how much more of this should I go into? That's what I'm saying by the peripheral ramifications of the things that are happening. I mean, how many more psyops do we need to have happen? I'm going to play for you guys a quick clip of a press conference that was held at the White House where they discussed or entertained the idea of gun control. I think that's very interesting because, like I said, this is playing into the larger agenda of things like the Arms Trade Treaty, gun control, the UN, and the general disarmament of the human being so that we cannot protect ourselves.
Destroy ISIL.
And finally, just a question about something you said earlier. Can you say that the White House has never reached legal determination that it has exhausted all of its efforts when it comes to unilaterally acting through executive orders and such on gun control? Has it ever reached that determination, or is it still looking?
Well, Rich, I'm not going to rule out that the president may at some point in the future take steps, but I think we made pretty clear when the president announced a series of executive actions back in January that he had asked his team to consider every available option for using his executive authority.
And those were every available option at the time.
And the president's team pursued every available option, but again, they're also always looking. And if there are new ways to use executive authority,
Madam President, today I wanted to come down to the floor
to use them. Okay.
And I'm going to show you guys a video where we're talking about Christopher Murphy and the new International Martial Law Act, the ISIS War Powers Act that Obama put into play. I want to say at the start of the year. It was right towards the time of the Bundy Ranch, the Malheur Wildlife Refuge situation. And this came out because basically what it does is it gives Obama international powers to declare martial law anywhere. But I will let Mr. Murphy explain it in a way better context than myself.
Is working. Madam President, today I wanted to come down to the floor to speak very briefly about a resolution that the majority leader introduced, I believe, earlier today. This is an authorization for military force resolution that apparently purports to give the president legal authority to conduct military operations against ISIS. Before we break for the weekend, Madam President, I thought it was important to come to the floor to explain why, very briefly, to my colleagues, to explain what this resolution really is. This resolution is a total rewrite of the War Powers Clause of the United States Constitution. Let's be clear about that. It is essentially a declaration of international martial law, a sweeping transfer of military power to the president that will allow him or her to send U.S. troops almost anywhere in the world for almost any reason with absolutely no limitations.
Destroy ISIL.
And finally, just a question about something you said earlier. Can you say that the White House has never reached legal determination that it has exhausted all of its efforts when it comes to unilaterally acting through executive orders and such on gun control? Has it ever reached that determination, or is it still looking?
Well, Rich, I'm not going to rule out that the president may at some point in the future take steps, but I think we made pretty clear when the president announced a series of executive actions back in January that he had asked his team to consider every available option for using his executive authority.
And those were every available option at the time.
And the president's team pursued every available option, but again, They're also always looking. And if there are new ways to use executive authority to keep the American people safe, the president won't hesitate to use them. Okay.
So, as he said in the video that I played back to back, Obama making a series of actions back in January and having to take the legal and necessary actions to keep the American people safe. That's what these false flags are. These people operate in the mindset of the Hegelian dialectic, where they believe in problem, reaction, solution. By providing these problems, by radicalizing these individuals, and I actually go over this in depth in the video that will be released Friday. It's episode 220, Gearing Up for Civil Unrest, where we talk about how people are radicalized, how people come in funding these individuals, coercing them into doing these radical things, and then unleashing them. But how dangerous that is, because you can't unleash something that's radical. They're talking about radicalization like it's some kind of course that you can take, you see. You can't control flame. It's an element. It's alive. And once you do that to someone, once you unleash this flame, you cannot control the outcome. And that is what is happening on a global scale with ISIS. Whether these people are radicalized or even activated, regardless, these things are occurring, you see. And whether or not we can try to pinpoint the reality of it, or whatever you guys would want to call it, we have to look at what it is these people want to do in the long run, you see. So I'm going to take you guys over here to the vault, where you guys can see the Arms Trade Treaty. And I've talked about this a few times. But right here on page 19, with small arms and light weapons, it says, in accordance with Article 5, page 3, I'm assuming, of the ATT, national definitions of small arms and light weapons shall not cover less than the descriptions used in the relevant United Nations instrument at the time of entry into the force of this treaty. The two most relevant instruments would be the 2001 Firearms Protocol and the ITI. According to Article 3, A of the 2001 Firearms Protocol, firearm shall mean any portable barreled weapon that expels, is designed to expel, or may be readily converted to expel a shot, bullet, or projectile by the action of an explosive, excluding antique firearms or their replicas. This definition is broad, covering any standard handgun, rifle, or machine gun other than antique firearms or their replicas, including firearms that are automatic or semi-automatic. In addition to firearms as traditionally understood, this definition focuses on the process of firing, the method used to project or to propel the projectile, rather than the likely outcome. As a result, some less lethal weapons would be covered by the ATT, but not others. A more all-encompassing definition of small arms and light weapons is set out in Article 4 of the 2005 International Tracing Instrument. For the purposes of this instrument, the small arms and light weapons will mean any man-portable lethal weapon that expels or launches, is designed to expel or launch, or may be readily converted to expel or launch a shot, bullet, or projectile by the action of explosive, excluding antique small arms and light weapons or their replicas. Antique small arms and light weapons and their replicas will be defined in accordance with domestic law. In no case will antique small arms and light weapons exclude or include those manufactured after 1899. So basically what I'm trying to get at here is that regardless of, you guys can go over this article yourself. I just wanted to put this in here, simply to look at what it is that they're trying to do with gun control, how specific it is. Saying common sense gun control laws will get us back to where we will, or where we need to go, is not the way that we need to look at it. They're using very precise wording to dismantle the Second Amendment, you see. So there's a number of things that we need to look at when we're taking a look at this whole situation. Suicide vests, suicide bombers, knives, grenades, all kinds of different things would fall underneath the Arms Trade Treaty. So that's what, if anything, we should all be starting to digest, break down, and review with all this, you see. So basically, what does this mean for the American people, all these different things that are going on? It means more surveillance, wiretaps, real-time crime, more censorship, more security, such as gun control, safety checks, political correctness and tolerance, and more psyops and false flags. Basically, less rights for the individual overall, less wiggle room for anyone to do anything. In closing, I'd like to briefly go back over one of the things I thought was, well, all of these things are extraordinarily important, but one of the things I thought was very strange that spurred me on to this particular event was Facebook's new security check. The fact that I had not heard about this event until I got a notification from Facebook. And then once I started checking my sources, talking with other people, and confirming that these things actually occurred, that's whenever I started to do my own research and refrain from making a statement on what's actually going on. But why is Facebook's new security check important? That's because they're determining who is safe, who is not safe, who is alive, and who is dead. They're able to do this through your cell phone without you even knowing. So what else is going on? You see, is this how they deployed their new system? Was this attack an instrument of them, a beta test of them trying this out? This is more of the technocracy, if you ask me, and I'm not trying to go down that route. The point I'm trying to make is look at the peripheral events and the things that are happening outside of just this attack. The reason why I looked into the why his name stuck out, why it didn't seem right, why I looked into the etymological translation of Omar Mateen is because apparently it was right. The word means flourishing powerful, that Islam is starting to flourish powerfully here in the Western world. And it's because we have an incompetent president and somebody that will not admit the truth. We're living in a time where lies are more accepted. People would prefer to not take the complex and long route of understanding, where in a society we want the immediate answers if we already have the understanding. We're not looking, like I said, at the peripheral ramifications of the things that are going on. You see. So that's all I really wanted to put into this particular video for you guys. Okay? And any of the videos that you guys saw in this particular video, you can go back and check on in our website, freedomfaction.jimdo.com. That is the link that you guys see at the bottom there. You can go there and check on the vault, look at some of our videos, some of the documents and the video and the pictures that we have, as well as listen to past podcast episodes. But that's all I really wanted to get out there for you guys. If you have any questions, feel free to email me. I'll have it in the description bar below. And as always, guys, stay vigilant, expose lies, and share truth. This is Noise Era, Freedom Faction, out.